Our guest is a money coach, a chief Sherpa at FinSherpa Investment Services. He has over 20 years experience in finance and investment consulting. Well, viewers, today we are going to talk on the goods and service taxes, the GST, with our finance expert, Mr. Babu Krishnamoorthy. Welcome, Babu, to my show.
Thank you, Dr. Renu. It's a pleasure being here.
So glad to hear that. So, Babu, what is this GST all about? The goods and service taxes. So many people are confused. There's so much of anxiety in the market, and I think it's still there. So, we would really like to know, just in a layman's perspective, what's this all about?
So, put it very simply, Dr. Renu, the tax structure, government collects revenue for running its various functions in the form of taxes.
Right.
And these taxes can broadly be classified into direct tax and indirect tax.
Earlier we used to pay VAT, right?
Yes, that's a form of indirect tax.
Right.
So these direct taxes are the income tax which we normally pay.
Right.
But in the indirect tax space, you had a plethora of taxes, a variety of taxes. You had excise duty, customs duty, sales tax, service tax, octroi, entry tax,
Absolutely.
a whole variety of them. And what this resulted in was multiple taxations, confusions, leading to evasion of tax and so on and so forth.
Got it.
With the enactment of GST, there's one tax which replaces all the other taxes. So to look at it, it's actually simplifying the whole process.
Really?
Absolutely.
Wow, okay.
This whole GST system is meant to simplify the whole process of indirect taxation so that one, compliance becomes better and people find it easier to kind of go ahead and pay their taxes. And second is it also reduces the cost of various goods and services that we all bear. And I'm sure over a period of time that's how it will turn out to be.
Absolutely, that's what I heard. They said it just needs to settle in, and I think by 2018 people are going to be very thankful that the GST came from,
Absolutely. In fact, 40 countries globally have already adopted GST very successfully, and they've all seen dramatic growth in their economy. So we believe the same will be of true in India down the line. So we just have to give it a little time. And
this has been a process, I think started way back in 96, if I'm not mistaken.
86. Actually, the thought was mooted in the government of VP Singh, and initially ruminating, and government in its wisdom took its time to kind of implement finally. So we've had a 30-year wait for it to come true, but finally, better late than never, as they say.
Better late than never. So that's all for my viewers. Better late than never. It's a good sign for the GST to come, and there's nothing to be scared of.
Absolutely. It's something to be thrilled about in my reckoning, if you ask me.
So tell me something, Babu. Suppose I'm a homemaker, So how do you think as a homemaker who's probably not earning, So how does the GST affect a person like me who's actually not earning, but will I also be required to pay the GST?
See, GST will touch every citizen of the country in one way or the other, because GST will impact every commodity product that we buy and use in our daily life. So from 1st July, your milk price will undergo a small change, infinitely small sometimes perceptibly large. That's the difference, but there will be a change. So even a housewife will have to make a new budget on which she will run her household based on GST. So there will be a change. How dramatic will it be? Will it be very large? Will it be small? Time will tell. But in my reckoning, there will be a little change in the way even a homemaker runs her household going forward.
Is she going to say it's a good thing to happen or a bad thing to happen?
That I think we'll have to wait and see, but I don't think she will have things to complain.
Okay. So you think that we'll have to just wait and see, like
we'll
any new thing
at a consumption level, at a homemaker level, government has been very, very clear that it doesn't want to see a dramatic rise in prices. So they have taken care to keep a lot of commodities which households use on a daily basis under the exempt category. Right. So to that extent, life may not change much, but time will tell.
Okay. And tell me something now. why are we at this stage in our economy bringing a new law? Is it really required? Because everyone are wondering, last year we had demonetization and this year we're having something called the GST rules. So do you think it's really necessary that we come out with a new law like this?
See, let me put it differently. Right? So India has among the highest rate of tax evasions globally. And
highest rates
really? Of tax evasion, absolutely. So we have a very large percentage of our population that doesn't comply with tax regulation. And a part of reason that was found by a study is that the complexity of law is one of the reasons why people choose to stay away from compliance. And GST was necessitated with the idea to make it simple so that compliance rates can increase. And that's where it all started. And eventually what also happens is, let's just sneak back into the previous era.
Right.
You would have an excise duty, then you would have a sales tax, and
right.
then if you shipped that product into a place like Mumbai, you would have to pay an octroi, which is an
right.
entry tax.
Right.
So you'd have 3 taxes compounding on the same good. So the
right.
price of commodity increased, consumers suffered,
right.
people evaded,
right.
there was corruption, so on and so forth.
Right.
With GST, all this goes away. One single tax across the country, whether you are supplying from Punjab to Kanyakumari, it's the same tax all over. So by and large, I think compliance rates will increase, evasions will go down.
Right.
And so I think we needed this desperately, if you ask me.
For the economy of our country.
Absolutely.
Wow.
And this will boost consumption.
So my dear viewers, it's a good thing, good for our economy.
Absolutely.
There's nothing to be scared of.
Nothing to be scared of.
Wonderful. So now I just had another very basic question. Now we have small and medium sized industries, and billing is generally erratic. People bill in bill books, and they need not have computers. A lot of businessmen, small who necessarily do not have computers in their shops. So people like them who are using the bill books, how do they have to follow the GST? Is there a particular rule which has been set for them, or how? Probably some guidelines as in what these businessmen ought to be doing.
So GST applies only where the tax component is about 20 lakhs. So there's a basic exemption. So if you're very small, if you're that very small businessman whose tax liability is going to be less than 20 lakhs, you actually don't need to comply with anything.
Really?
Absolutely.
So it's better to be a vegetable vendor who wants to not pay GST.
So vegetable vendor anyway will not be under GST because vegetables don't come under GST. But by and large, very small businessmen are protected that way. But in case you are somebody whose tax liability under GST is going to go about 20, then you will need to file returns and you will need to upload your invoices online. But if you're not savvy with computers, if you don't have systems with you, you can always use public networks. There are Suvidha centers that the government is planning to establish, where you can use for a very, very nominal cost and upload these.
Upload your. So that brings me to my next question, Babu, is that for a person who does not want to pay that tax, because there are some items where the taxes are as high as 18% and of course as low as 5%, but suppose in his category of business he is required to pay a very high amount of tax, and is there a possibility of he kind of just shows his billing as against a particular amount, but he collects cash and he doesn't reflect it in his computer or whatever? So is the government geared up for people like this, or is there an alternative market already government has thought of and decided that okay, probably there is going to be an escape from GST if people do not declare their income completely?
So there are two things to this, Dr. Renu. One is government has been cognizant of the fact that there could be, Indians are always ingenious.
Absolutely,
in their own ways.
Everywhere you go abroad, if there's someone who's doing something not right but doing it successfully, it has to be an Indian or a Chinese.
So the government is cognizant.
Right.
So what they've done is, in case of small businesses which do not comply with GST, they obviously cannot supply to large corporates. Which means, so let's say I'm a small vendor, let's say a stationery vendor who's supplying to a large corporate.
Right.
Now that corporate will want to claim GST credit. So they will want me to pay GST and then file with them. If I don't pay GST and file with them, they will not obviously enlist me as a vendor. So in one way, government is ensuring that most small businesses which cater to business will register under GST because they will want to cater to large businesses and thereby get credit. Second is, GST itself provides for an input credit mechanism, which means that whatever I buy, if that is a GST enabled product, if I've already suffered GST, I can claim credit for it.
Right.
So to that extent, I don't see too many people not wanting to claim credit.
To claim the credit, absolutely. So why should they do that?
Absolutely.
And why should they just accumulate money and kind of recycle or whatever? So that's good. So there's no black money. So I think it's kind of a system which will not allow too much of black money.
It encourages compliance, let me put it that way.
Right.
It encourages compliance, it encourages people to be more upfront.
Right.
And the assumption is that everybody wants to be honest.
Right.
If the system is reasonably simple and can be followed easily, I think India will be a very tax efficient country. And
Right.
everybody will be honest.
So that brings me to my last question, Babu. To all the professionals out there who's hearing you, what is going to be your solid advice to them as a financial expert? When I say businessmen, it could be different professionals, it could be doctors, it could be lawyers, it could be entrepreneurs, it could be just maybe a small shopkeeper, or it could be a young student wanting to be an entrepreneur. So what would be your final takeaway to my audience regarding this?
So I'd say, I'd go back to basics and I'd say, like in anything, change is always the most difficult stuff. So this GST law is definitely a change from where we were. But I can assure you that the change is very positive and it's very, very proactive going forth. The GST is going to change the landscape of this country. Economically, we're going to move far ahead in the next 5-10 years thanks to an enactment like GST. So I remain confident that the opportunities from youngsters to businessmen is going to be much larger. The pie is going to be much larger going forward. So I think, yes, we will go through 6 months of pain in terms of transitioning
Absolutely.
ourselves.
Absolutely.
That's what any change is all about.
Right.
But after that, I think it's going to be
Boom.
boom time.
For India.
Yeah, absolutely. India's come of age that way.
Wonderful. So dear viewers, I hope that was useful, because at least this has cleared a lot of doubts in my mind, a lot of apprehensions as in being a doctor, what I need to be doing, whether I should be doing it or not. And I do have now experts in the field of GST who are going to get a little more into GST, so that if there's any more doubts, we could clarify. Thank you, Babu, for being in my show. It's been an amazing experience having you with us.
Thank you so much. Pleasure sharing whatever I knew. Thank you.
Thank you.